Oh, nice.
All
Good
right.
stuff.
So I'm going to get we do have some slides to share, but really, guys, I don't know why this is not doing this. This is why we'll do it that way. Really, it's meant to be loosey. We want to have, this is conversational for us to be able to do this. We like it best when people engage with us and we can talk and ask questions and help everybody learn better because that's how Jason and I have learned. So welcome to the first S'mores and Strategy. We're going to do a series once a month where we're going to talk about what we've learned from our RV park investing. And Jason and I have been investing in RV parks. Jason, can you help me monitor the chat, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
No, no problem.
So Jason and I started investing. Well, we started our real estate journey a long time ago. Some of you on the phone we've known, so good to see some familiar faces. I started out in contracting, and then Jason and I met, and he said he wanted to start investing, and we started in single family, like I think most people do. And we realized we weren't going to scale, and we went into RV parks. So this last 18 months, if not longer now, it feels like longer. I think it is a little bit longer. Jason and I have really dove into RV parks and learned about them and why they're different than multifamily or single family investments. And so we like to share that with others because there's a really good niche here that we found and we love for various reasons. And so we like to share that with others and share our learnings. And we believe in not gatekeeping and just having real conversations about it. So we have some fun things to share with you guys. We'll give a little bit about who we are. We'll talk about RV parks. Jason, anything to add on who we are? What would you
Yeah,
share?
I also want to add. So I'm also part owner of Finish Line TC Services, and why is that important? Because we specialize in doing TC work for creative transactions, which a lot of these end up being because a lot of these RV parks, they're not priced for a bank note, so we have to get creative. And one of the things we specialize in, for those of you guys in Pace's community, is called the Morby method. For other you guys, it's the stack method. So you basically stack a DSCR with a seller finance. We've probably done several $1 million worth of properties, RV parks, multifamily apartments, commercial buildings, and so we do have a lot of, so we have learned, so when Erica says we learned a lot about RV parks, we also learn about the transaction side of the RV parks, not just stack method, but also if you're raising capital, we do have a fund and, I did TC our RV park with $1.7 million raise with investors. So that has a little bit different nuance. And so when Erica says we come from a background of experience. We come with underwriting, transaction coordination, deal finding, deal structuring, customer relations, investor relations, seller relations. We build a relationship with everybody we buy a park from. It is our mantra to walk a park with the owners, find out what their vision is, share what our vision is, and kind of show how they and kind of how they intertwine. And I tell you, every one of our sellers have come to us because they want to sell,
Yeah.
not because we have the best offer.
And with that, we also bring over 20 years each in project management experience in large corporations. And that also helps us with understanding this because one of the weird things you'll find out about RV parks is they're less about real estate and more about business operations. And that's what we found through this process. So RV parks versus the single family and how they break the mold. So what we like to say is that when you go with a single family or multifamily structure, you're managing tenants and you're managing an asset. When we go into RV parks, it's land, it's movement, it's people going all over the place, and it's hospitality. And so it tends to be more in that space of hospitality. And so there's different ways you have to organize the business around that to encourage people to come into it. So you have to offer amenities. There's certain things that are basic expectations. Like when we bought our park, it didn't have a public restroom or it had a public restroom, but it didn't have a public shower or laundromat. And that was a big negative on the park because the guests did expect that. And so as soon as we put in the laundry into the park, we started seeing it averages about $200 a week in revenue, which that's where the money is made, right? So we learned that the people didn't like the laundromat in town and they preferred to do it at the park. And that was a good value add for us. So is how do we pull those different levels and business structures to help improve the guest experience and constantly get the feedback from the guest? And guests are finicky, as are even the monthlies in RV parks. So even if you were to get a long-term stay RV park, and we see a lot of these in Texas, they have them for the workers and they can be a nice park. As soon as the job is done, they're leaving. They come into our campground, they'll say, oh, we'll be here for 5, 6 months. 2 months in, they go, job's canceled, I'm out. And then you have to find another person to fill that spot. So there's constant churn in this space. And it's more about creating that experience for them, which does happen in multifamily too, as we've seen. Jason and I went and walked his son's apartment and they had a game room and all those types of things. So it can be a draw for that as well. It's just more dependent in the RV park space. Anything you'd add to that, Jason?
Yeah, and again, we don't want to take away from the long-term guest market, right? And
Mhm.
that's where mobile home parks really become popular because they really are affordable housing. At the end of the day, you are dealing with tenants, and so you just have to ask yourself as an operator, do I want to deal with tenants or do I want to deal with guests? Now, the beauty about having a certain percentage of long-term people there is it helps you through what we call the shoulder season. So times when people aren't vacationing in Texas, people like to vacation in the summer and then we get the winter Texans that come December through February. So in the spring and the fall, we call those the shoulder season. Having workers there or people that want to kind of stay there in what we call the off season kind of helps keep the park up and running. And like Erica says, they might not necessarily be driven by amenities, but they like the look of the park, the feel of the park, and the quietness of the park. So that will attract them as well. And as long as you have a good balance between the two, you won't be tagged as just a transient park or tagged as just a resident park.
Guys, we don't like talking. We love talking about this, but we love questions too. So
Yeah,
please,
yeah. Feel free
please
to
interrupt us.
unmute yourself and ask questions or stop us anytime.
So this is what we're getting to where it's multiple businesses in one. So really we're managing the real estate, the lands and the pads and the foundation of the business. And then it's that transient and the higher. And the reason that the transient and why we push for transient. So when we're looking at our parks, what we're looking for, and this is a particular model, and I know there's other people that invest in RV parks like Lizanne on here, and that she may have a different view of it. We look at how when we're buying a park, we want to have the majority of the income come from the transient stays because that's where you drive up your income. Although there's a percentage that we reserve for cost coverage. So for us, it's about a 75-25 split, 80-20 split, where we want to reserve that smaller percentage to be for those monthly stays where we're really targeting people who are going to drive that stable income and stay longer at the parks. And we do that because that covers the basis cost of the park and some of those operating costs like the wages, so on and so forth. And then the hospitality side tends to be all upside. And I know there's a lot of things going on in the chat. I don't know if Jason, if there's anything there you want to share or things you
So
want.
Melissa Ryan said, "What addition have you found to be the biggest revenue booster?" And
Yeah.
there's a couple things. I'll tell you one of the things that worked well for us was on this particular park is there's a 5,000 square foot barnuminium that was included in the deal. Now, when the previous owners had it, this was a primary residence, so for them it wasn't a revenue stream. The first
Mhm.
thing we did is we went in and converted it to a short-term rental and now sleeps 11 people. Now the way Erica has kind of marketed has been kind of nice because we get the people that want a vacation on the weekends or do the family reunions on the long weekends. And then during the week, we're finding these small crews of workers that just want to work at a site Monday through Friday morning and then they head back home wherever home is. It's usually like an hour or two away. And so these crews, they come in and they all they do is they go to work, they come home and sleep. They keep the place very clean, they're very quiet. Why am I telling you this? Because between the people that come in during the week and our vacationers on the weekend, that asset alone covers all the debt for the park. And we have two notes on the park. We bought the barnuminium subject to, so we're paying the existing mortgage because the interest rate was so phenomenal. There's no way I could have beat it. And then the seller carry at 4%, we're covering that note too. So that means everything else in the park is upside.
Yep.
Now, what are the things we've added for upside? We've got a camp store. We've got an ice machine. And the ice machine is like a vending machine. So I don't have to have somebody come out and deliver ice once a week. We have a laundry facility. We have a 250,000 gallon spring fed pool. Now, one of the things we did to market it that's really helped us this year was we didn't market $10 to come use the pool. $10 gives you access to the entire park. That's 2.5 miles of hiking trails. That's barbecue area, picnic area, playground, river access for fishing. We have some of the best cat fishing in the area. And then,
Mhm.
yes, you do get access to that amazing 250,000 gallon spring fed pool.
So for us, the revenue driver is the pool. It does pull six figures a year, close to that. And that is an amenity because it is the draw to the park. And then the barn dominium, our best month that we had in the barn dominium, and we've just owned this since March, we had an $8,800 month on the barn dominium. So
Wow.
it's really how do you look at the area? And this is an area where they need more large event spaces or large gathering spaces. So we get birthday parties, we get those things where 10 to 12 people need a place to stay and they want to come where there's things to do. So, but every park is a snowflake too. And we've looked at hundreds and hundreds of parks, guys. We've walked a lot of them. And so it's about really getting in there and understanding the business model and what is drawing people to the area. And so Jason and I concentrate in the Sun Belt and just a few other states like Colorado, Tennessee, where we've had experience and we understand the dynamics of those markets and how people can be drawn into the area to use those spaces. Is there anything else coming up in the chat, Jason?
Just people want to go fishing. I think Lizanne came off mute. I didn't know if she had a question
Oh, it
or
was yeah. Well, Erica was just asking. She was asking if I was doing the same model, and yes, I'm
Yeah.
doing the overnight, stuff. We do have seasonals there, seasonal campers. I'm actually going to meet them all. Most people when they sell a park, they don't tell anybody that they're selling, but all these seasonals know we have 62 of them.
Yep.
That it's being sold, and we're having a big dinner for them this coming weekend. So I'll be there for that to meet everybody, and hopefully they all like me, and we'll see how that
Well,
goes.
and that's really it. Like in this industry, we found too, even Jason and I went to the park and we stayed at it for the first 4 months of operations and we got to know the people. And that is the whole thing about these type of assets is it is community when you're in the space that we're in, especially when you're on the hospitality side. Some of them are not, and that's fair too. And there's a park for everybody. It's just understanding the different dynamics of them so you can go into it with eyes wide open on what you're getting into.
Yeah.
so. Erica, Wendy Parkhill had a very good question. Do any of your parks focus on a niche 55 plus, family friendly, pet friendly, etc.? So
Um, we haven't particularly.
no, but I will tell you that last one is key, right? When you say pet friendly, I will tell
Yeah.
you more people travel with their pets than they do with their own children. So one of the highest selling things in a camp store are dog collars, dog leashes, dog bowls with your logo on it. Those things sell like hotcakes because they love their little furry friends.
And an amenity that many parks will add is the dog park. And it's
Mhm.
not because it brings in revenue, it's because it brings those campers and they bring the revenue to the park. And
Right.
so that is something that we're looking at a value add in the park that we have, and we do look at other parks ourselves.
we're
But
actually looking at adding dog at this site because we have so much space between our sites
Yeah,
that we're going to be. I think it's
the
I'm not sure if
fencing.
Yogi Bear that does the dog pens,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah,
there's
it's
lots of them
huge.
here. It's huge. There's actually a couple parks we've looked at that are full on fenced in just for that reason. So you pull in your rig and it's a big site and fenced in. But again, it's like, what are you marketing for? What are you looking at? Jason and I, and you bring up the 55 plus community. Jason and I walked a park last week that we have an offer in on, and it is the only park in the area that is not 55 up. So
Wow.
it's the other side
so
of the
so
coin.
that's the draw,
So
right?
that's the draw because they're the only park that accepts families in that area. So people will go there because of that. And it's in a high tourism area. So you have to weigh and understand all those dynamics. Like if you're going in Florida, you definitely get more of the 55 up communities as well. Arizona tends to have more 55 up communities depending on the area. And that's why understanding your market is important.
And to add to that, it's okay to experiment. You could try something for a few months and go, oh,
Yeah.
this isn't working like I thought. And then you could pivot, and that's okay because RV parks do have that flexibility.
Yeah. So now that we're talking a little bit about RV parks, and I know we have people that are just interested in learning and investors yourself in multifamily, and some of you have done RV park deals, is one of the things that we really learned through this process is we say cap rates lie. Um, I can't tell you as an underwriter how many times and how many variations of cap rates that I've seen in this. And trying to get to a cap rate on an RV park, everybody does it differently. And there's different templates for underwriting. And it's just not the same as multifamily where you can find a good model and it really works. You have to be dynamic in this space. And so what we see often is for those that are into the numbers like me, and I like the geeky stuff, is the some brokers and sellers will calculate it based on gross revenue. So they take gross revenue divided by the selling price, and then they go, hey, that's our cap rate. And then it ends up being 10-12% and it looks phenomenal, but it's really not. Some people do it on the pro forma. We see a lot of pro forma in this industry, a lot of sales based on pro forma too. So they're constantly marketing the park sales and the price at a pro forma. So Jason and I often go into a conversation and we, is this bankable? And that's the question, because if it's not bankable, and you don't have numbers to prove it, we have to have a different conversation. And so there's a lot of work that has to be done investigatively. And for me, what I've done is I created my own template for underwriting that allows the seasonality because that's also an impactor. So this isn't a traditional where you can just say peanut butter spread out that you're going to have this, you get tenants in, you have 95% occupancy, you're going to hold steady through the year. You're constantly pushing for that seasonality. So you have to know where the shoulder seasons are right now. Where we are, it's a shoulder season. So the parks are sitting more vacant during the week. They get upswings on the weekend, or you go into the prime seasons, which depending on where you're at, where we are now, it's winter and summer are the prime seasons. And so you plan for more revenue. Our park tends to get probably the majority of the revenue between May and Labor Day. And because of that, we have to make sure that we're planning for those off seasons so you have that expense coverage. So it's a really different bird. And I saw some chat pop up, so I don't know if we want to pause there and take a question.
Yeah, I know Morgan was talking about some local features, and I put in some of my ideas in the chat. But
Yeah.
one of the things that we like up in this area is because we're on a river that flows out to a lake. In the fall, we promote a lot of local hunters. So you get the duck hunters, you get the deer hunters, and so that's our attraction. Plus, we're 50 miles from one co college town, 40 miles from another, and so we promote a lot of people to come out and hang out for the weekend, but then go to the local football game. So in Texas, football is huge, even Pop Warner in high school. So we're surrounded by four high schools. So we promote that, and then the local colleges. So going into the fall, that's kind of what we're starting to promote now because it's not quite winter Texan season yet. That happens at the end of the year. But there are events that go on in northern Texas, like the hunting and the sports that are attracting people, and they just want a place to stay for a weekend. That's a little bit more relaxing than just trying to cram into a hotel that everybody's fighting for.
Well, and that, and again, it goes to the area. So, and it depends on the park structure too. So Jason and I, at one point, we were looking at a park that was along the NASCAR racetrack, right? So when we looked at it, your peak seasons there are the 6 events that they have annually, and that's where you drive in the traffic. So you have to look at that model and say, how do I really drive that? And how do I make that consistent year over year? Because there is no demand in the off season from that because you're going to invite in people that are unsavory. And this is the dark side that we'll get into in our next conversation of RV parks, where you're going to invite in drug dealers or people that are unsavory or low income people in the area just because of location alone. But when you're going to do the events, it's a great area for people to gather, it's safe, it's close, all those things. And this is how every park is just a snowflake in itself, where you have to understand and do the research and understand the economics of where you're at.
Yeah, Erica, we got some more
Let's
questions and
go.
comments. Lizanne was asking when you say bankable, you mean to cover the debt. It's
Yeah.
more when we say bankable, Lizanne, we're talking about do they have the NOI and the bank statements and the tax returns that we can go to a bank and apply for a loan.
Mhm.
9 times out of 10, and you've seen this, 9 times out of 10, they don't have that, and they're
Yeah.
basing their sale price on the pro forma, not on the actual NOI. And so if we're going to bridge that gap, you have to have a creative conversation. Now, I might give them their asking offer if they give me really favorable terms, but at the end of the day, we got to meet them somewhere in the middle.
Well, and just to that point, just to share for those that don't know, 95% of RV parks are mom and pop owners. Majority own one park and they're done. Having a large corporation or conglomerate that owns multiple parks is a little more unusual in this space. It's starting to happen. We're seeing that trend. Marriott has been buying parks, as have others. But right now, the majority are still mom and pop owned, and they just didn't have the good records and they didn't care. We looked at a park that is gorgeous in a right area of Texas. It's in high hospitality. They're selling it on Performa and they've made nothing on it for the entire 50 years it's been in the family because they didn't care. It was a hobby. And so it's how do you take that real conversation and the emotions that they put into that because it is a beautiful park, it is a beautiful tract of land, and translate it into a business discussion because the value that they want isn't there yet. It will be. It takes
Yeah.
time to build that.
That's great. I hope that answered that question. The next question was Whitney Parkhill said, "What kind of staff do you need at each park?" Now, Erica kind of alluded to this. The problem is most of these are mom and pop run. So when you do the underwriting, we have to put, like maintenance and park manager in there because they did it all themselves and didn't equate for that or didn't reflect that in their books. And so sometimes that changes the NOI and we have to have that conversation. But at a particular park in the peak season where we have the pool open, we have one park manager, we have a main park manager who works Tuesday through Saturday. Then we have a backup park manager that works Sunday and Monday. And then we've got six lifeguards that
We
rotate.
had 6 lifeguards and 4 office staff that rotated.
For office. Now everybody except the park manager will go away in the fall. And then we have a series of 6 cleaners lined up for the barn dominium that we can rotate through at any time. It was kind of genius how the park manager did that. He basically, well, let's take a step back. Erica went in and cleaned that thing top to bottom, front to back, and recorded a
I may
SOP.
have been a professional cleaner at one time, so I had to get the SOP
So
out
she
because
so
I
she had
like
it all
processes.
documented. And so the interview was he would hire a cleaner, hand them the SOP, and then see how they did. So we ended up finding six. He ended up finding 6 cleaners we could depend on, and now we have a rotation because sometimes people check out on a Sunday and people aren't available. Sometimes people check out on a Wednesday. So having that 6 deep of cleaners will make or break your Airbnb. And for those of you guys in the Airbnb business, you absolutely understand.
So the answer is in staffing is it depends on your model of park too. So you can have a simple park, it's 50 pads. And 50 pads is about the sweet spot where you need a manager. And then you just need a manager and a maintenance guy to come in. Maybe you contract that out, right? You just do it on an as needed basis so your expenses are low. So you contract out a local guy or you give somebody a work camper. So you give them a free spot and then they take care of your maintenance for you and your lawn care and those things. So it's a little bit different. You barter a little bit with the campers. As you get bigger in your parks and depending on your amenities, you have to staff differently. And that's where Jason and I ended up looking at a park and it's huge. It had cabins and water parks and all sorts of stuff. And it was running a staff of about 40 people at one time. So really have to dig into how are they running the park? Are they doing it themselves? How are they getting the things done? And it's asking those questions during the due diligence to understand what your staffing model is going to be and how you're going to manage that going forward. So, what do we track instead? If I could lead into that conversation to help with that, some of it is the average daily rate. We need to see how much we're booking. Average daily rate is based on your occupancy and the rate charges to see what is your average across a period of time. That's more indicative of how we're performing. We look at our expense ratios as well. Parks should be performing within certain expense ratios, so we want to look at that and make sure that we're performing within those expense ratios. And yeah, and that's really how you pitch it and control revenue. And then of course the occupancy is something we're always chasing. Jason, anything else there?
Yeah, Lizanne pointed out that there's a park across the street from the racetrack that's available in Tennessee.
Oh yeah.
Uh, uh, Dema or Dema, I don't forgive me if I mispronounced it.
Dima.
Lima, okay. No standard underwriting is so true. So many factors. It's so dynamic. And one of the things Erica learned um, that we didn't really understand until we got our first park is what that ramp up in year one looks like, right? And so the problem is we make year one look really good, and we took a step back and said, wait a minute, we really got to ramp up year one. It's not going to be that profitable that fast. Even though we were able to put in 22 new sites, a laundry facility and a shower facility within the first 4 months, it's still too aggressive. So when she
Well,
says that
it's
she
the
writes
underwriting model
seasonality,
is just like sounding true. It tells you what your pro forma is going to
yeah,
be because it's going with multifamily and you need a 12 to 18-month ramp up in this
yeah.
space.
So that's something we've done a little different now going forward because now we've seen that in real time.
Mhm.
And then Debbie says, do you also provide equipment rentals related to river activities like fishing, boating, etc.? That is absolutely a great revenue stream.
Yep.
We capped what we were going to supply for year one because we wanted to add two or three different things and say, okay, how are those going to do in year one? And then we're already starting to project things we're going to add in year two now. And yes,
Yeah.
rental equipment is something on our list. It's just not something we're looking at for year one.
Well, and we have history to go on too with that
Yeah.
because, and this is where you have to get in and really get to know the people that ran the park ahead of you and understand their business model. They did kayak rentals in the past and it didn't go over well. It wasn't utilized. So instead, what we look at is how do we get the people in the park and we set that avatar and then we start creating the amenities for the people once they get there, not before.
Yep. And then Whitney asks, "What are your thoughts on a restaurant or marina on site? Good way to bring additional
Yeah.
income."
We're
Now,
not fans of restaurants.
I will tell you, Eric and I don't like restaurants because statistically, restaurants themselves are
A
very hectic.
95% expense ratio.
Yeah. Now, what we do like is people who enjoy running restaurants and then renting out if it's on the property, renting it out, we get that guaranteed cash flow from the rental, and then they bring in their own restaurant business and they run it the way they want. We don't want to be in the restaurant business. It fails more time than not.
Although we would do, we have looked at some and we have considered the food model where it's just like the burgers and the chip baskets and
Yeah.
the pretzels and those types of things. Those are light touch and that's a
Yeah.
little bit easier to staff up those.
And then Whitney
Better
said,
overhead.
yeah, and then Whitney asked about a marina. A marina is a good
Mhm.
cash flow, especially in the season. I've seen people make a lot of money on a marina. Dima asked about a bar. A bar, absolutely. We actually
Yeah.
tried to get a liquor license for our park. We found out that Eastland County is broken into wet and dry parts of the county, and our property just happens
We're dry.
to dry. Now, there's a whole process we could do to take it back to the board and get it changed, but we'd already missed the season. So we go, okay, we'll try that again for next year. So,
Yeah.
yes, having a liquor license or a bar is definitely a great revenue stream, but it's also something else you got to keep track of, checking IDs, making sure you don't sell underage, the rowdiness, all that
Then
stuff.
your
But again,
staff has to be older, all those things, which
yeah,
is not a problem where
but
we are, but
but it's a great revenue stream. And then Adriana Pena asks, what mistakes do you see new investors make when projecting occupancy and seasonality? Oh, this is a good one for you,
oh
Erica.
yeah, I can take this one. So the biggest mistake is they over leverage the transient. Transient is not going to be your highest occupancy. You have to actually estimate it lower than you think. And industry standard tends to be about 45% occupied on the transient side and 60 about it can be between 68 to 85% on the monthly side depending on your park structure and what you're doing. So it's really variable. And the biggest mistake is that people come in and they're a little overly aggressive with that. And I did it too early on in my underwriting until I learned from other people in the industry that were doing it and taught me differently. It's it's really difficult to maintain those high occupancy rates because just to give you a leading marker, if you're going to spend $15,000 annually in marketing on a transient park, your average lift is going to be about 18% year one, and then it goes down from there. So you take a look at that and you go, okay, that's a lot of spend. So it takes a team of people doing that type of marketing and putting it into the campground to make that happen. So that's the challenge and the mistake I see most people pay. And then the other one is that they overpay for the park because it's really easy to get caught up in the sexiness of a performa and sellers are sticklers to it. Jason and I have no problem telling them we're going to walk away. And
And
we
and
do
here,
that
and
often.
and here's the thing I say, and I say it with grace and care, is like
Yeah.
you're talking about a performer. You didn't perform to the part to that level. Now you're asking me to. So I see your vision and I think it can get there, but you got to meet me in the middle. I can't buy, I can make a decision based on your performer, but I got to buy based on your NOI, and we can meet somewhere in the middle. And that usually keeps the dialogue going.
Yeah. And it's a great conversation. I mean, a lot of times we get people that are disappointed because they really wanted us to buy it, and we say until we have a price discussion, we really just can't go there because it goes back to now we have a park that is not bankable, and then we have a park that's on seller finance, and we're risking being able to pay the note.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. That's our reputation online. If we can't pay a note, that's on us. And so we take that pretty heavily.
I love these questions. Keep them
Yeah.
coming.
Okay, the next one was Linda said, what about contracting out with food and coffee trucks? Now that is a great model. Now we did a little different this season is
Mhm.
we were trying to get our name out there. So what we did is we partnered with local food trucks and we partnered with local vendors and said, look, we're not going to charge you. We're going to have you, we can have you come out and you can sell as much and anything you want. The only thing we ask is that you cross promote us. So you're going to go on your Facebook and you're going to go on your website and you're going to tell everybody you're going to be in the Spring Riverfront IV Park on this day, and we're going to do the same thing. And then while we're there, we take pictures and we post it and we ask people what they're ordering. Now, what that does is it does a couple things. Really, what it does is it helps our SEO ranking on because now we're linked to local businesses, and now we're talking business to business. So that improves our ranking too. It gets people in town that know about that particular truck but don't know anything about us, and vice versa. So now we're helping each other. We had people from as far as Abilene, which is an hour away,
Our,
come down with their food truck, and they brought their people with them. And so, and then we got to expose local people to these food trucks up in Abilene. So it's a great model. Now, eventually, Linda, you could get to a point where you can say, well, okay, well, I'm going to charge you a flat fee, or you can hook up to my electrical and I'm going to charge you for that. And then you keep the rest, or you do some kind of split. But we wanted the cross marketing and we wanted the exposure, and it worked out really, really well. We had some amazing weekends because the food trucks were there.
And one of the models I had for one of the parks we had looked at before was a food truck festival. So the grounds were big enough where you could use it for other things when it wasn't being utilized as a campground because it was the event space. So, food truck festival, open it up, have them all come in, have them pay the fee, or you get a portion of the proceeds, like tell them you can set up here. We're not going to charge you the fee, but you get 20% of the profit to us. There's always ways to get creative when you're looking at this asset class to try and find ways to put in more revenue or drive visibility to your park. And Jason brought up a really good point about the SEO and the optimization. It is so important for this asset class to have that because you are marketing transient. So with our park, we started out when you Google searched RV parks in the area, we were on page 5. We're now number 2, about to take the number 1 spot. And it's
And
all about the reviews. So those reviews and just having the right SEO manager to tag your property appropriately is going to bring up your visibility, which means that when people are driving by, they're finding you.
yeah, when we took over the park, we had 74 reviews and we had a 4.7 rating. We told the park manager, if you can get us to 150, we'll give you a $500 bonus. He got
We're
us to 164.
164 and climbing, and we're going to hit the 250 mark, which is going to put us into promotions for Google. So it's you have to know all these things. Yeah.
Yeah, great, great. These are awesome questions. And so Lizanne was talking about that she learned about music permits. And so yeah, that's another great way to bring people in. I looked at a park in Arkansas that every Saturday he had concerts, and
Mhm.
he sold alcohol next to the concert, and right across the street he had a pizza parlor, which was his pizza parlor as well, and people would go there. So yes, music is another great way to bring people in because everyone loves music. Ian asks, "What's the average stay for transient? What normally makes them unplanned extend their stay?" I can
Usually
take a
like
first
three
shot
to
at this.
four days. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's two. You got the transients that we're lucky that we're on the I-20 corridor, which is the most busiest freeway in Texas, and it takes you to and from Dallas. So we'll get a lot of people either going to Dallas or from Dallas and need a place to stay the night. That's where we get a lot of our transients. But then when it comes to vacations, it's usually 2, 3 days. Like our Memorial Day and Fourth of July weekend was packed.
Mhm.
Because again, the big draw was that spring fed pool. So when you come and stay at the park, you get access to the pool. And then what normally makes them unplanned extended their stay, we had somebody come one time stay for a week because their transmission went out, and so they had no choice but to wait until their vehicle was fixed. But and then some people had such a good time that they called the office and say, "Hey, can I stay a couple more days?" And they
Yeah.
said, "Absolutely." So
Or we had one couple that came by and they said, we had no idea this was here. And then they said, can we just park our trailer here? Our son's going to go to college and we need a place to stay. So we're just going to park it.
yeah, so they park it there, they pay the monthly fee, and then they come from Thursday and they leave on Sunday
Yeah.
because their son's going to college in Stevensville, which is about 40 minutes away.
I mean, the biggest variable we're dealing with here is the people variable. So it can be for any reason.
And then Lizanne asked, how scared were you guys when you were about to take over the park? That's a good question. I can honestly say we weren't scared. We were excited, but then when we got the park, we had to pump the brakes because almost fell into that trap of wanting to do too many things at one time. And so that became scary because then you're starting to go, okay, where's my budget going? We got to be smart about this. So we were actually really excited about taking over the park because I always say, Eric can vouch to this. I love hanging out with other people vacation. And so I just had an absolute blast for the 4 months we were at our park until we got it stabilized. Um, so in that respect, it wasn't scary, but then until we pumped the brakes, it started to feel scary, if that made sense.
Yeah, and so based on the conversation we've been having here, this slide really represents our model because you have what we've been talking about, the work that goes into getting the tourism in, and then you have the monthlies, which can be a little more stable depending on what you're getting in for monthlies. If you're doing seasonality parks, which are really big in Florida, where you have snowbirds come down and they stay for 6 months or so on and so forth, it's a little more stable than if you have a worker camp. And then when you're in the Sun Belt, because we do have year-round usability of the parks, this is why we love this area. You do the hybrid model, and then you can spread the wealth between the balance of the two. And so now let's talk about the hidden landmines that are in RV parks, because there are some ugly things that happen. And this is also to the point of you asked the question of what did you learn about the park that you didn't know? And I can tell you a story about our park, which is it's not a big deal thing, but it's the little things that you don't know until you take it over. They have a pit toilet down by the pool, and they put a safety bar across there to prevent children from falling in and getting stuck, which is not required by law. It's got all the other safety precautions. As you can imagine, waste gathers there, so they have a stick to clean it off. So it's like dealing with stuff like that that's just unexpected, and you have to figure it out and kind of learn on the fly. The typical things that come up in the parks that are actual landmines and can undermine a deal is electrical is huge. One of the parks we looked at needed a full electrical. A lot of these are in counties that don't require permitting or they're outside of the city limits. And they have people that just don't know electricity or are doing the wiring. We walked into a park that had open panels with missing covers and wires that were ready to catch fire. We talked to somebody who took over a park, and it's a beautiful park with horseback riding on the coast of the Carolinas, and they're trying to offload it right now because they got in over their head and they're not meeting their investor um, commitments because they had to rip out the entire electrical system because it was poorly done. So what Jason and I do is whenever we go into a park, we do end up paying for the full inspection, and we make sure that they're going around and walking these electrical systems and septic systems. The septic system is the secondary one because a lot of these are going to be on septic systems. We used to try and shy away from it. It's very difficult to get away from the septic systems on these. Um, and they can be tragic. If they're not in the right areas, if they're not protected, there was a death here in Texas from somebody falling down a septic. When we walked into our park, they had it serviced a year ago, and when we had it serviced, it was 100% full, and there was some cleanup that needed to be done. So if these are not maintained, or other things we've seen is we've seen parks that have re-permitting happen. So they have so many septic or so many sites are allowed per tank, and then the permitting changes and they reduce the number of sites and now the tank is too small and then you have to incur that expense to install extra tanking systems. And I see we probably got a question there.
Oh,
And
we got several questions. I'll just wait.
should we go into it?
Wait.
And then we talked about market demand, so we don't need to talk about that again.
Yeah. Adriana had a great question. She said, "What systems and software do you recommend for reservation payments and tracking occupancy?"
Uh,
So,
there's good ones and there's tough ones. It
yeah. So,
depends. The answer is it depends. Jason's going
yeah.
to give you his favorite, and he's the
Yeah,
biggest.
when I walked in, so just to let you know, I was the park manager while we were in the process of hiring a park manager. So I got thrown into CampSpot, and they probably have the worst customer service of any product I've ever had in my life. Like the absolute worst. Like they tell you to call their a customer service line, and you call and they say, "Hey, sorry, we can't answer the phone. All of our customer service people are in training." Wait,
Talk
what?
about hidden landmine because we ended up
Yeah.
getting shut down for bookings for 9 days.
Yeah. So we couldn't take a booking for 9 days after we took over ownership. So we actually shifted to New Book, and we really like New Book for a couple reasons. Now, a lot of people that have ever seen New Book, you realize it is a Cadillac. But
It
the
is.
beauty about New Book is they will give you, they'll give you the Honda and let you work your way up to the Cadillac if you want. But one of the best things about them is their customer service is top notch because they're an Australian-owned company. Why is that important? Because it means during the day the customer support's in the United States. At night, the customer support is in Australia. I can pick up the phone at 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon. I will get a voice every single time, and they
Well,
are on it.
yes. And that is a luxury high-end system. And I will
Yeah,
add to that a little more unbiased. There are other booking sites that do work.
yeah,
Rover Pass is great if you're a smaller campground and just looking for bookings. They do have great cutover. So it depends on the size. And if you just have a RV park that's just taking bookings for the park and you don't have the other amenities like we do, which require a more robust system, it's a good basic system. I know people that use Staylist that really like Staylist.
yeah.
There's ResNexus, which ResNest, I think is the other one that people tend to like. And so you need to look at what your park demands in terms of revenue management and booking management. For us, the important thing was that we needed to be able to take the pool bookings online. They had never done that in the past. And we needed to manage an Airbnb and wanted to have another avenue to be able to take those reservations along with the camping reservations. And it works great for us. Now, the downside of it, because there is always a plus and a minus, is that it doesn't manage the monthly bookings well. Upside is they take customer feedback and almost all their customers are asking for it, so it will come in a future upgrade. So it's all about finding that balance in the software system and what you want.
And I believe any one of those softwares does have a tracking system for occupancy. It'll tell you
Yeah.
which sites are tracking well, which aren't. A lot of them do offer some offer dynamic pricing, some do not. So, definitely shop around. There are good software out there. Just what do you want to spend and how important is customer service? And that I think that system is linked to Clover, right? New
We
book.
did not link the two together because we didn't need
Okay,
to, but you could
right.
have the
But
interface.
and,
We use Clover for our storefront.
no, we use Square for the store.
Square for the storefront. Yeah,
Yeah.
we did use Clover. We did an
So
interface.
we use Square, and Square is great because we can track all of our pool passes, all of our cabana rentals, all of our pool parking, and then the stuff we sell in the store. And it does a good job, pulling out, what's what. And so that works really well for us. Now, the washer and dryers are on an app called Shine Pay, and they've got an amazing system that you can go on and just see who's using your washer, whether they use the app or coins. And
And then
then
the ice machine is a whole nother one.
yeah, but it's got a card reader too, and it's a company called Cantaloupe. Um,
What were the
so
other questions there, Jason?
yeah, the next one, Linda said, "What are your thoughts on getting with the local chamber of commerce?" Yes, 100%,
Yes,
absolutely.
100% do it
Yeah,
always.
we
We're
do
a
it.
little bit late to it and we're on it. We're going to do it because it is so valuable to your business.
Yeah. They will market you and you get to connect with local businesses. That was our biggest thing is Erica, because we were there for 4 months, we went around and met the local business owners and
Yes.
that just did wonders. Do any of your parks, this is from Whitney, do any of your parks have cabins, tiny homes, or people without RVs to stay? If so, are they popular? Um, right now, our RV park only has the barnuminium. We are looking at either tiny homes or structures that fit in an RV site. Also because I'm in the sub two community and I own a TC company, I know how to buy and sell RVs creatively. subject to or seller finance. And so I'm looking to put some of those on the park because there are so many people that want the RV park experience that don't necessarily want to invest in an RV yet. And so having those at your park allow people to come enjoy that without having to own their own RV. So
And the answer is it depends on the area and what it can demand too, because we've looked at parks and glamping is really big right now, and those are taking off and they can command a higher price. So if you have the space, it
and
is
they're
a
low
strategy
cost.
that works well.
Yeah. And they're
They're low
glamping's a low
cost.
cost.
They're about 10 to 15,000 to set up.
Yeah.
And and you have to look at you have to do a balance of it. So yes, is it popular? If you do it right, it's great. The other downside of it is you have to have cleaners in the area because
Mhm.
otherwise you're going to have staff on hand and you have to take care of those cleanings and doing it the way that you want it for guest experience. So there's always that healthy balance.
Yeah. Great. I hope we're answering these. If we missed anything and you want us to go deeper, just unmute your mic and let us know. Dima asks, how do you ensure a good deal for yourself? If 95% are family owned, it seems that mostly you would be pitching creative terms. Is there an exception to that?
There's
Um,
always an exception,
yeah,
and we have had some that would qualify for conventional.
yeah,
And then the conversation tends to go that even at conventional with market rates, they aren't cash flowing.
yeah.
And
So
that
you
becomes
gotta,
another conversation.
yeah. Then you gotta reduce the cost. Now, here's the thing. I will tell you, our strategy is we never go in with seller finance first.
No.
And I'll tell you why is because how many of you guys have come across something you don't understand, and the first thing you say goes, I don't want to do it. That doesn't make sense to me. That's creative finance for most people, right? They don't, most sellers, especially in the mom and pops in the RV space, they don't necessarily understand creative. So I go in there with the intent to get a loan, and then we have to answer the math problem. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I can't meet your asking price. The bank said no. So I either got to give you this really low offer, or you and I have to talk about another strategy, and that usually opens the door to start talking creative.
Yeah, and bank rates on RV parks are more expensive than they are for multifamily, so that is another difference. My latest quotes that I got are between 7.5, I think 7.5 was the low end to 10 for an SBA, which is very difficult to qualify for. And you're not going to typically get any Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac because a lot of these are not paved and all sorts of things that are needed to meet those requirements. And then the other conventional bank notes can range anywhere from 9 to 12. And that's not even hard money yet. That's the bank.
Yeah. Great question. Lizanne asks, are there companies that do everything for inspections, or do you need to hire them separately?
We've done everything in one. The only thing that I would do separately is an environmental, which would be a separate person.
Yeah. But we specifically asked, do you guys do electrical and septic
We
inspections?
hire commercial inspectors.
Yeah. Adriana asks, how do you underwrite a brand new park with no track record? Oh, that's a fun one.
Yeah,
The seller is
it's
open to seller finance, zero interest, 10-year balloon. Seller is an 82
yeah.
millionaire and has health issues. It has 82 sites, pool, dog park, 5 minutes to the water. Seller is open. Seller just opened the RV park 2 weeks ago.
I think I've looked at this one. Sounds familiar. There's a couple of them out there like this.
Mm.
We tend to shy away from the new development because they're based in a foundation of what the performa is. And for us, when we've been looking at the people that are investing in our assets, they're looking for the cash on cash return. And so you're looking for a different type of investor there. And that type of investor is willing to put the money in and not get a return for the next 3 years. You have to hold it for 3 years before you're going to turn a profit, typically.
Mm.
So you're paying the premium to get the quality brand new RV park, but your hold period before returns is going to be greater because you're
Oh,
going to need that stabilization period.
okay.
And Adriana, one of the things you could look at is you can look at a debt fund. Those are usually like your professionals, your chiropractors, your doctors, your attorneys, your who just they just want to put in money. They don't want anything to do with the asset, and they just want a flat return anywhere between 8 to 12%.
Yeah.
Those are usually your best investors because they're not expecting big, giant, beautiful returns, and they understand that there's going to be some stability in there, and it's going to take some time before they get that first
And I would
check.
even negotiate no payments for 12, up to 6 to 12 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's agreed to that. And we actually do have a lender that it's a client of my business partner is a agent,
Mm.
and she's a really rich, or should I say, a millionaire client. And he really likes my business partner, and he told her, hey, if you ever come across any RV parks, multifamily properties, let me know. I'm interested. I'm in.
Yeah.
So we've got the lender, or he's willing
Money.
to, yeah, he's
Perfect.
definitely.
As long it just, I mean, you just have to scale it up. So you have to do that ramp up period to show
uh
what's really going to happen. And you're going to start out slow and you do the bell curve. So you may have a bigger spike year one, and then it's going to taper off and grow slower the years over that.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
Adriana, are you offering him equity or just a straight payback?
He wants to buy a ranch. And he's got a portfolio. He's got a lot of businesses. He's got
Hmm.
a laundromat, he's got a construction company, and he's got a lot of businesses. So he wants to get rid of all his businesses and retire because he's 82 years old. He's got some health issues. And so he said so we offered him 300 down. Um, and even 300, I think it's a little bit too much, but
It's not bad. I've seen worse.
really? Okay.
Just make sure you've got some money for your closing costs, your operating costs, and of course,
You're going to
you
have to have
structure the,
holding money. Yep.
yeah, and if you structure the deal, you got to put some money in your pocket too. There's a lot of work that goes into acquiring a park.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So make sure you account for that too. It's usually referred to as an acquisition fee, and most investors are aware of it. So when you say, "Hey, I'm taking a X% acquisition fee," they understand.
Mm-hmm. It's a really nice park. It's beautiful.
Yeah,
I'm
I
excited
believe
for you.
it. Yeah.
If
Yeah.
if you got a plan, go for it. Pull the trigger.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. CK says, how would you go about determining if a park is okay to buy if it's coming up as a high crime area? Would you call police department and ask if they have incident reports? Been coming
Um,
across this even in popular tourist areas in various states.
So there's a couple ways to deal with it. Yes, you can get the crime reports and all that stuff. Lisanne's probably laughing because she's very big in all this stuff. You like digging into the details. I know you do. Um, so you can definitely talk to the local law enforcement um, and see what they recommend. That's a good start. This is the dirty side of parks. It happens when it's not managed well. You have to have good managers in there. And if they're not willing to manage it, you're going to get run with prostitution and drugs and all those fun things. And you can clean it out. And it does take law enforcement to help you with that. So it's good to get to know them and see if they're willing to do that and dig in and support you. And that's why it's also good to know the laws in the states you're investing in, because there are states where it's going to be harder to get guests who have been staying there a long time out versus guests that are states like Missouri where you can tell them to get off your property and they have 2 hours to leave. Otherwise, you can go take a gun and say, get the heck off. There's all spreads of the spectrum of how to deal with it. And you need to be aware of what the state laws are, the county laws are, and what the police enforcement are willing to do.
Yeah, that's a great point because we learned in Texas that if you let somebody get mail at your RV park, they are now a tenant. So we had to make sure that in our park rules, it says you may not receive U.S. postal mail at the park. You can receive packages from Amazon, UPS, and FedEx, but you cannot receive mail because the local sheriff says, well, they're a resident, they're getting mail there. So we say no on the camp rules, and any mail that comes into somebody, we say return to sender. So that's how we cover that because the second somebody becomes a tenant, now I've got to go through
Evictions.
eviction. But if as long as they're a guest, the sheriff can escort them off. And here's the cool thing about kicking somebody out of a park. It's not kicking somebody out of an apartment and they're homeless. They just take their home, strap it to their truck, and they drive away. They're not homeless.
Well, and there's certain things with that because we've been to a park where we were looking at it and the tires were flat and they're sunk in the ground in the sand because they've been there so long. So within reason, let's just say. And this is all part of the due diligence process and what you learn going through it. Are there other questions there, Jason? Or should we move
Um,
to start wrapping up?
I think there might be one more gonna drop. Oh, how many Whitney asked, how many parks do you own, and are they all the same geographical area, or are they spread out?
We own the one, so we did get under contract on 4 parks last year. The 4 parks we got under contract, one was in Tennessee, one was in Texas, and one was in Oklahoma, and then we closed on one in Texas. So we've really spent this last year digging into different areas within the Sun Belt and a little bit above, and those markets, and we walked away for good reasons on those. We can talk about that another time. Due diligence should be a topic we talk about.
Yeah, and for sure. And we've seen enough parks now. We built enough relationships with brokers and sellers that we're really starting to see a lot of good deals come across our desk. And some of them they pencil out really well, but they're just not in Eric and I's buy box.
Right.
So, if you guys are ever interested in RV parks, we can help you either invest in your first RV park or you can buy your first RV park. Like I said, everything we look at, we underwrite and say, yeah, we would buy this, except it's not an area, a desirable area we want to buy, or it isn't the model we're looking for. Like, we get a
Model.
lot of
It's
worker camp
typically the
ones.
model. Yeah.
Yeah, we get a lot of worker camp ones and they cash flow and they look great, but it's not the model Eric and I want to focus on now. In the future, we will. So, if you're ever interested in anything like that, stay on our email list and let us know if you're interested, and we'd be happy to have a conversation with you.
Yeah. So as you can tell, we really love parks because of all they offer. So this slide is just a good summary of why we like it. Jason touched on it a little bit. We didn't talk about it too much as dynamic rates. So what we institute in our parks is we have a base rate that's $45, but it can go up to $80 based on demand. So you really get to play with the markets like that. And the CapEx is relatively light on these. You're dealing with dirt and land and pedestals. Um, and it's fun to find these amenities and the draws and all those things. And the one thing that's not on here that we really did appreciate is for investors that are looking for a discount is the cost segregation on the RV parks is much greater than what you're going to find in multifamily. So our asset was purchased at a 2.2 purchase price and a 2.5 million all in, maybe 2.6 million all in with CapEx improvements. And we're going to get an accelerated depreciation over 1.6 million on it for the first year. And
Yeah,
that we'll get the final numbers next week, but that's how big of a cost segregation it is to get that accelerated depreciation.
and why is that important? Is because we have investors, and they're not going to get any profits this year because we were ramping up, but we're going to give them a negative K1, and that's going to help all these people who need tax write-offs.
Yeah.
So it's going to be huge.
And so for us, it's fun. We get to get creative. I have an art background in addition to my math, and I love playing with this stuff because I get to play with both sides of that and introduce that creative financing. And so the key takeaways from today, and hopefully we shared this with you, is that the deal is in the underwriting and in the management, and it takes strong management and underwriting to make this happen. Your hybrid model is what we love, not saying that other models don't work. Amenities, amenities, amenities are so important here. And then the seasonality. And it's just a little bit different than the multifamily space because there's no rules that we can really apply, or price per ad is not the same as price per pad. Little typo is not the same as price per door. So hopefully you guys will join us next time where we'll talk about the good, bad, and ugly truth that we kind of alluded to here about RV parks, and that you guys found this valuable because we'd love to share more with you. We love this asset. This is my Instagram. This is Jason's. This is our website if you want to follow along. We do tend to share a lot on our stories. We haven't as much because we've been heads down just enjoying life right now. And we spent a lot of time at the beginning of the year ramping up the park. Anything to add, Jason?
Yeah, Erica, can you go back to that last slide?
Yeah.
The takeaways. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Got it. Thank you.
So here's the thing, guys. How many of you guys used to go camping with a kid when you were a kid and your grandpa always says you got to leave the park better than you found it? We do the same thing with our guests. We try to leave our guests better than when they showed up, right? That's what the amenities are all about. It's providing a guest experience. It's about taking them back. Nostalgia is probably your best marketing tool on the planet because everybody remembers going camping with grandma and grandpa when they were kids. It seems like there was a generation gap where that got lost, and we're trying to bring that back. And so we're getting a lot of people at the park that, and I know it's kind of funny because, one of the things people look for amenities is Wi-Fi, and sometimes it's hit or miss, let's face it. So that's why when Eric and I stay in an RV park, we use Starlink because we just know it can be hit or miss. But we actually use that to tell people, look, this is your chance to disconnect even for a couple days. I promise you, when you get back home, life will still be there. And when you use that nostalgia and you let people know, hey, you're going to experience something that you haven't experienced in a while, but more importantly, your kids are going to experience something they've never experienced, then that's really why Eric and I do what we do, because that's the fun part.
And we love sharing this with investors because it's just different than other things we've seen. And so we hope you enjoyed today and we'd love to see you again. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye. Bye.
Appreciate you
Bye.
guys.